Hey y'all, Kyle here. Just want to talk to y'all about Mario Kart Fantasy Football. It's the rule set that our league plays in. Um, been working on this for years, to be honest. Just kind of theory crafting it. This is our second full season running these rules, and we actually have a couple new rules that we're trying out this year as well. But it's been very successful for what it's aiming to do. What it's aiming to do is try to keep parity in the league, so that you don't have teams running away and teams that are just out of it by week 7, and to increase the number of trades and roster movement. So you can see in the first part here, parity outside of the Boston Checkmate, which went 10-4. You kind of take them away. They won a game at the end of the season against Team High Dollar here, when High Dollar was out of the playoffs. So they didn't even set a roster. It was the only week of the season that happened at. So I mean, I don't know. They could have been 6-8 versus 9-5. That looks a little bit less different, less disparity. But ignore that for a second. You look at this, you see all this parity. I think the number one complaint people tend to give is like, oh, is it just completely random? But if you actually look at the teams, like let's look at the worst team in our league. It's not a very good roster. If you look at, let's just take an 8-6 team here. That's a much better roster. So, you know, it still ends up rewarding the teams that are good and punishing the teams that are bad, but it keeps everybody in contention so that they don't just quit. Fantasy football is one of the only games people play where you have to punish the guy who comes in last just to make sure that they keep playing the game because it's a long season. It's 14 weeks, and if your team's bad, you kind of know it after 5 weeks, so it's boring. And it's like I don't know. That's I've been in plenty of fantasy football leagues that have just kind of fallen apart after a couple of years because the majority of the league just they never have any fun. They have the draft, it's a blast, and then the rest of the season it just sucks. Their team gets injured, and they're just out of it, and you're just waiting for next season. So everybody's in it the entire time. Last year, there's only one team that didn't have a chance to make the playoffs in the last week of the season. That was Team High Dollar. Everybody else had a shot, which was cool. The other part of it, transaction counter. You can look here, just see the amount of movement. Obviously, my team does a lot, 29 trades. I absolutely fucking skewed the numbers, but I drafted bad, so I really needed to work my magic there. But I don't know how this trade calculation works, so I'm giving the conservative estimate. You just add them all up and divide them by 2, because I'm assuming that like if I trade with somebody, we both get a trade. So there's 124 total trades in this trade column, meaning that at minimum there was 62 trades last year in our league, which I know a lot of leagues that have maybe like 5 trades all season, and they're all for bench players. In this league, we had a Travis Kelsey for Christian McCaffrey trade. We had big names going. Pat Mahomes got traded. Everybody on everybody's team mostly got traded. My entire roster got turned over. Second year in a row that I did that. But you know, so let's just get into how does it work. That's sort of the why. Let's get into how it works. It's pretty simple. Let's go to my team here. You have everybody has a roster: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. They have 3 OP flex positions: defense, kicker, and then they start the year off with 2 bench spots. And the way it works is every week, depending on your standings, so 1 through 6 in each division, we play in a 12-team league. There's different roster restrictions, with it being more lenient if you're a bad team and stricter if you're a good team. So the 6th seed, they get to use all 3 of these flex spots, and they can play one of them. They're allowed to play an extra quarterback. That's why they're OP, not just flex. Sometimes you get to play a second quarterback. But 6th place, you get to play an extra quarterback and 2 flex, whatever you want to play. 5th place, you can play an extra quarterback or anybody else in that flex. You get a regular flex, and then you get to play a second tight end. Uh, 4th place is extra quarterback flex spot. 3rd place is 2 flexes. 2nd place is 1 flex and a tight end. And 1st place, if you have a 1st place roster, you just get the 1 flex spot. And what this does is it doesn't completely eliminate, 1 seeds. We've had a 1 seed beat a 6th seed both years. But what ends up happening is it just becomes a lot harder to win as a 1 seed and a lot easier to win as a 6th seed, which is, we call Mario Kart Fantasy Football. That was the goal. If you ever play Mario Kart, generally everybody kind of stays towards the middle, but the guys that are good at Mario Kart tend to win more often than they lose. So you play for an hour, the guy who's the best at Mario Kart usually wins. But everybody still has a good time. Everybody wins one or two races. Everything stays competitive the whole time because of all the items and all that. And so the reason we call it kart style fantasy football is quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, defense. That's your cart. You play that every single week. You play all those guys, and then these three things are your items. That's the way we like to think about it. It was the goal that we were going for, and it works pretty well. As you can see, the parity. Go back to the standings. Parity keeps everybody in it. Bad teams still struggled. Good teams really did well. Um, but it also encourages trading because you have if you're a good team, you're gonna literally be playing less players week to week. So it's more important for you to have a good flex one than it is for you to have three good flex players. So if you have, let's say you have three guys that could be in this flex spots that are all like B plus guys, it makes sense for you to package two of them or even sometimes three of them and ship them to a team that's in fifth place or sixth place uh, to try to get one of your flex spots to be like an A minus, right? That's generally how most of the trades work. And what'll happen is you'll, trade for a couple of good guys. You go from a 6 seed, then you go up to being a 3 seed or a 2 seed pretty quickly because obviously the parity works. And now you're in the same boat. You want to trade all your, you know, three good players for one great player. And that's why we ended up having so many trades. I think, like I said, at least 62 trades last year. Um, there's a couple other things that we do get a little bit more complicated. Like I said, we start with two bench spots. Um, we have this thing called the trade exemption bench spot. If you're in a trade with somebody, both parties can agree to give a third bench spot to one of the two teams in the deal. Um, and that is because, if you're doing like a 2-for-1 trade, you don't want to have to cut somebody. That makes it a 2-for-2 no matter what. So in this situation, you can accept the 2-for-1 trade. You get the extra bench spot. That way you get to keep everybody. You don't have to cut somebody. Um, yeah, we're just kind of we keep tweaking it. We keep trying to figure out ways to make it a little bit more fun, keep people engaged, and we have a bunch of people that have played fantasy football before. We have some people that never really played fantasy football, and the response from most people that have played in this league has been it's like, oh, that honestly was the most engaging I've been. My favorite thing is the guys that are playing in like two or three leagues, and then in two of their leagues they're like out of it by week 8, 9, and now but they're still in it in the Mario Kart League the entire time. And the last week of the season last year, basically everybody got a playoff game last year because at some point they were, you know, the last week of the season, like I said, everybody but one team had a chance to make the playoffs. And so everybody got a playoff game. The best team still won. You know, I had a worse record than Shim here, but you know, I still think I was a better team. My team was loaded at the end there. Anyway, if you are interested in trying this out, if you're interested in learning more, I'm gonna put a Discord link at the bottom of the video here, or just like reach out to me. I'll put an email and a Discord link. I'd love to see if anybody else's league wants to try playing with these rules. There's more rules and stuff. This is just general overview, and I'm happy to help somebody out play it because I genuinely think it's the most fun way to play with a group of friends. Unless you all are like super duper into fantasy football where you watch podcasts every single week and you love drafting the third wide receiver on the Patriots, that's fine. You do that. This does not just not going to get in the way of that. This is just for people that want like a version of fantasy football that plays more like a board game that you'd actually play with your friends than fake football GM. So uh, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully somebody out there likes this. Hopefully I can get this up there. Hopefully this video made any sense whatsoever. Thanks for watching.